My wedding livestream captured the moment Marcus called me worthless in front of 400 guests, saying I was too dark-skinned and poor to be his wife. Everyone I loved watched him destroy me for entertainment. Then the chapel doors burst open and a man appeared, who made every powerful person in that room freeze like they'd seen the devil himself. He walked straight to me, kissed away my tears, and declared he was marrying me instead. When I asked him why, his words sent chills through my body. I've been obsessing over you for half a year, Amara. Now that you're mine, you'll never escape me. I couldn't tell if I'd been rescued or captured by someone far more lethal. What I learned about this man over the next day shattered everything I thought I knew. You need to hear what came next. I don't, he declared. The words cut through the Atlanta wedding venue like a blade through silk. Amara's fingers trembled around her bouquet of ivory roses. Her pulse thundered so violently she was certain everyone could detect it. The pastor's eyes widened in disbelief, his jaw dropping open. "Pardon me," the older gentleman asked, removing his spectacles to clean them. Marcus pivoted toward the 400 guests filling the lavish venue. Crystal fixtures illuminated everything above. The late afternoon Georgia sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. Every detail was flawless. Every detail except the man at the altar. "I said I refused to marry this woman," Marcus announced, his voice reverberating off the polished marble and gilded decorations. "Just look at her. She's dirt poor, and her skin is too dark. Our families arranged this merger, but I won't chain myself to someone so beneath me." Shocked gasps erupted throughout the space. Amara felt like ice water had been poured over her entire body. Her gorgeous ivory gown, the one she'd spent countless hours selecting, suddenly felt unbearably heavy. Tears stung her eyes, but she battled to keep them contained. Not here. Not with all these witnesses. Her mother shot up from the front pew. "Marcus, this is outrageous." His father rose too, his complexion turning crimson. "Son, we had a contractual arrangement." "I couldn't care less about your corporate deal, Dad," Marcus snapped back. He gestured toward Amara like she was trash littering the aisle. "I'm not going through with this. Find another way to combine your businesses. I'm finished." The tears broke free then, hot and rapid, cascading down Amara's cheeks and destroying her makeup. She'd understood Marcus didn't love her. Their families had orchestrated this marriage to unite their father's enterprises, but she'd believed he would at least show respect. She'd hoped perhaps they could eventually develop friendship. She'd never anticipated he would degrade her like this. Marcus began walking toward the emergency exit. The audience murmured like disturbed hornets. Multiple people were capturing everything on their devices. Before midnight, this catastrophe would blanket every social platform. Amara wanted to flee, to vanish, to dissolve into nothingness. Stop. One word, profound and authoritative. The voice originated from the rear of the venue near the main doors. Everyone rotated to investigate, including Amara. Her vision was clouded from weeping, but she could distinguish a tall silhouette standing in the entrance. The man advanced into the illumination, and Amara's breathing halted. He was the most magnificent man she'd ever witnessed. His Korean features were striking, with razor-sharp cheekbones and midnight eyes that appeared to penetrate everything. His obsidian hair was impeccably arranged. He wore a costly black suit that likely exceeded the value of her apartment. The manner in which he moved radiated authority and menace. Each stride was fluid and intentional, like a predator moving through darkness. The guests separated like the parting of waters as he proceeded down the aisle. Nobody uttered a sound. The quietness was so absolute that Amara could detect her own respiration. She observed several men in the assembly lose their color when they recognized him. A woman toward the front actually grasped her necklace and murmured something resembling a desperate plea. He halted directly before the altar. At close range, he was even more commanding. He must have been at least 6'2". His presence consumed the entire atmosphere. When his dark eyes secured onto Amara's face, she experienced electricity coursing through her frame. Nobody had ever observed her in such a way, like she was invaluable, like she was stunning. "My name is Jae Hyun," he stated. His voice was velvet like premium bourbon. "And I'm marrying her." The venue erupted with astonished reactions. Marcus whirled around, his expression contorted with bewilderment and fury. Who the hell are you? Jae Hyun didn't acknowledge him. He maintained his focus on Amara, someone who recognizes treasure when he encounters it. Amara's thoughts spiraled chaotically. This must be a hallucination. Men like this didn't materialize in reality. They certainly didn't volunteer to marry humiliated brides at destroyed weddings. She attempted to speak, but words failed her. You can't just barge in here and commandeer someone else's ceremony, Marcus stammered. He attempted to project strength, but Amara detected the terror infiltrating his tone. Now Jae Hyun did glance at him. The temperature in the space seemed to plummet dramatically. You declared very explicitly, this isn't your ceremony anymore. You abandoned it. I'm merely assuming your place. A man in the front pew stood abruptly. He was senior, dressed in an expensive suit, and he appeared petrified. Mr. Jae Hyun, sir, we weren't aware you'd be attending. This is a tremendous privilege. Additional men began rising too, inclining their heads respectfully. Amara noticed Marcus's father had become completely ashen. He seized his son's forearm and jerked him backward. Marcus, remain silent, he hissed. But father, he can't just claim my bride. She isn't your bride. You stated that yourself. His father's voice trembled. Don't speak another syllable. Jae Hyun redirected his attention to Amara. He extended his hand and tenderly removed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. The contact sent tremors racing through her body. I understand this is bizarre. I understand you're confused and wounded, but I guarantee you, if you permit me, I'll dedicate every moment demonstrating that you merit infinitely better than him. Amara's voice emerged as barely audible. Why? You're a stranger to me. A subtle smile graced his lips. It metamorphosed his face from intimidating to mesmerizing. I know more than you realize. You handle finances at Park Enterprises. You're extraordinary with calculations. You volunteer at the youth center every weekend. You create the finest sweet potato pie in Atlanta, and you deserve someone who recognizes how remarkable you are. Her eyes expanded. How do you possess all that information? Because I own Park Enterprises, he said quietly. I've been monitoring you for 6 months, Amara, anticipating the perfect opportunity. This should have frightened her. Some unknown person had been surveilling her. But the manner in which he pronounced her name, like it was something holy, made her pulse accelerate for completely different motivations, and his eyes contained no malice, no revulsion, only warmth and something that resembled intense longing. This is madness, she whispered. Absolutely, he concurred. But is remaining here degraded before everyone any less mad? Accompany me. Allow me to demonstrate what you're worth. He offered his hand. Amara stared at it. This was insane, completely insane. She didn't know this man. He could be hazardous. He obviously was hazardous based on everyone's reactions. But then she observed Marcus, who was arguing quietly with his father. She contemplated confronting all these individuals about the recordings that were already circulating online, about returning home isolated to her cramped apartment. She accepted Jae Hyun's hand, his fingers enclosed around hers, warm and powerful. The smile he bestowed upon her made her knees unstable. He pivoted to address the assembly. The wedding will proceed. Same location, same hour. 7 days from now. Anyone who wishes to celebrate with us is invited. Anyone who objects can depart immediately. Then he escorted Amara down the aisle. She gripped her bouquet in one hand and held onto him with the other. Her ivory gown flowed behind her like mist. People observed as they traversed, but she maintained her focus forward on him, on this enigmatic stranger who materialized from nowhere like something from fiction. A black luxury sedan awaited outside, sleek and polished. A man in a dark suit opened the door. Jae Hyun assisted Amara inside first, then slid in beside her. The door sealed, blocking out the tumult of the wedding venue. They sat in silence for a moment as the vehicle departed. Amara's mind was racing. What had she just executed? Who was this man authentically? What did he desire from her? Jae Hyun reached over and captured her hand again. Breathe, he said gently. You're protected. I give you my word. Who are you really? She asked. He regarded her with those dark, penetrating eyes. Someone who's been anticipating a considerable time for you. And now that I possess you, I'm never releasing you. The way he articulated it, low and possessive, sent heat flooding through Amara's body. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. But as Atlanta's skyline blurred past the window and his thumb traced circles on her palm, she realized she didn't want to escape. She wanted to discover what transpired next. The luxury sedan glided through Atlanta's thoroughfares as the sun began to descend. Amara observed the city illuminations activate outside the tinted windows. Her wedding gown felt restrictive around her torso, making it challenging to breathe. Or perhaps that was just the anxiety establishing itself. "Where are we heading?" she inquired, disrupting the quietness. Jae Hyun sat beside her, completely composed, like abducting brides was something he executed every week. "Somewhere secure, somewhere we can converse without 400 people documenting us. You just hijacked my wedding." "Your failed wedding," he corrected gently. "There's a distinction." Amara withdrew her hand from his, suddenly requiring space. "This is insanity. I'm ignorant of who you are. You could be anyone. You could be perilous." "I am perilous," he said plainly. His candor startled her, but never toward you. She rotated to face him completely. In the subdued light of the vehicle, he appeared even more attractive, which seemed impossible. His jawline was sharp enough to slice through steel. "Why me? There are countless gorgeous women in Atlanta. Lighter-skinned women, women who actually know you." Jae Hyun's expression softened. He reached up and secured a loose coil behind her ear. The gesture was so intimate that Amara's breath caught. "6 months ago, I visited Park Enterprises for an unannounced evaluation. I wanted to observe how my administrators were treating personnel when they didn't know I was monitoring. I witnessed you in the common area distributing your meal with the new employee who'd forgotten hers. Then I observed you dedicate your entire break assisting her comprehend the company's financial system." Amara recalled that occasion. The employee had been on the verge of weeping, overwhelmed by everything. "That's just basic decency." "No, that's being exceptional," Jae Hyun said. "Subsequently that week, I witnessed your manager appropriate credit for your contribution on a significant assignment. You understood he executed it. Everyone understood he executed it. But you articulated nothing because you didn't want to generate complications. You just continued laboring, continued being brilliant." Heat ascended Amara's neck. "You were surveilling me." "I was studying you," he corrected. "I began anticipating attending the office just to glimpse you. The manner you hum while you labor, how you consistently bring beverages to the security personnel at the entrance, that smile you grant even when people don't merit it." His voice descended lower. "And affirmative, I noticed how beautiful you are. Your curves, your skin like midnight silk, those eyes that perceive the goodness in everyone. You captivated me entirely. Nobody had ever communicated to her like this." Amara felt tears threatening again, but for a different motivation this time. "Why didn't you just request a date like a normal individual?" Jae Hyun's laugh was dark. "Because I'm not a normal individual. When I witnessed the announcement of your engagement to Marcus, I conducted investigation. I understood his classification. Privileged, vicious, would never appreciate what he possessed. I hoped I was incorrect. I acquired a last-minute invitation to the wedding, convincing myself I would just confirm you were content." He shook his head. "But when I witnessed him humiliate you like that, I couldn't remain silent anymore." The vehicle transitioned off the highway onto a private roadway. Oak trees lined both sides, their branches forming a canopy. Amara could detect magnolia blossoms through the air circulation. "What do you execute precisely?" she inquired. Everyone at the wedding appeared terrified of you. Jae Hyun was quiet for a moment. "I operate several enterprises. Some are entirely legitimate. Others exist in the shadows. I manage situations for people who can't approach authorities for assistance. I resolve problems that conventional law can't address. So you're a criminal. I'm an entrepreneur who operates outside traditional regulations," he said carefully. "But I possess my own principles. I don't harm innocent individuals. I protect those who can't protect themselves, and I consistently fulfill my commitments." The estate materialized like something from fantasy. 3 levels of white stone and glass positioned directly on the edge of a lake. Illuminations glowed warm and amber from inside. A fountain sparkled in the circular driveway. Amara had witnessed residences like this in publications, but never imagined standing before one. The driver opened her door. Jae Hyun came around and offered his hand again. This time, Amara accepted it without reluctance. His grip was firm and comforting. Inside, the estate was even more impressive. White marble floors reflected the illumination from crystal fixtures. Massive windows displayed the lake extending endlessly. The furniture appeared expensive and comfortable simultaneously. A woman in her 50s materialized wearing a simple black dress. "Mr. Jae Hyun, welcome home. Shall I arrange the guest chamber?" "No, thank you, Mrs. Kim. Amara will occupy the master suite. I'll utilize the space on the 3rd level." Amara's eyes widened. "Wait, I'm remaining here tonight." Jae Hyun pivoted to her. "Unless you want to return to your apartment where journalists are probably already anticipating. The recording from today has circulated virally. Your location isn't difficult to locate." Her stomach descended. She hadn't considered that. "My belongings are all at my residence. Provide Mrs. Kim your measurements. She'll have everything you require by morning." He gestured toward the rear of the residence. "Would you like to observe the lake? It's private. Nobody can disturb us there." Amara should have declined. She should have summoned transportation, departed home, confronted the disaster like an adult. But something about Jae Hyun attracted her. Maybe it was how he observed her, like she was the only person in existence. Maybe it was the way her skin tingled every time he contacted her. "Okay," she whispered. They traversed through the residence and out onto a wooden terrace. Steps descended to a dock that extended into the water. The lake reflected the twilight sky, stars beginning to emerge like crystals on dark velvet. It was the most beautiful thing Amara had ever witnessed. Jae Hyun removed his jacket and tie, draping them over the terrace railing. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing strong forearms. Then he removed his expensive shoes and stepped onto the dock. Amara laughed. "You're going to ruin your suit. I possess 100 suits. I only possess one opportunity at this moment with you." Her heart fluttered. She reached down and removed her heels, then gathered up her dress so she could walk. The wooden planks were smooth beneath her feet. She joined him at the water's edge where tiny waves lapped at the dock. "I meant what I articulated in the vehicle," Jae Hyun said quietly. "I will protect you from Marcus, from anyone who attempts to harm you, from the entire world if necessary." "Why?" Amara asked. "What do you desire from me?" He pivoted to face her fully. The twilight painted his features in silver and shadow. "Everything. Your time, your attention, your thoughts. I want to understand what makes you laugh and what makes you weep. I want to feed you breakfast and debate with you about which films are superior. I want to observe you succeed and celebrate every victory." He stepped closer. "And affirmative, I want to touch you, kiss you, make you experience things you've never experienced before." Amara's whole body went hot despite the cool evening breeze. "That's very direct. I don't believe in executing games, not with something this significant." His hand came up to cup her cheek. His thumb brushed across her lower lip. "Instruct me to stop, and I will. Instruct me you want to depart, and I'll transport you home myself. But if you remain, comprehend that I'm not seeking something casual. When I commit, it's eternal." She should have been frightened. This was transpiring too rapidly. But looking into his eyes, Amara witnessed nothing but honesty and heat. Desire that made her feel powerful instead of ashamed. "Kiss me," she breathed. Jae Hyun didn't require being asked twice. He pulled her close, one hand on her waist and the other sliding into her hair. When his lips met hers, Amara felt like lightning struck her body. The kiss commenced gentle, almost questioning. His lips were soft and warm. He tasted like mint and something darker, something thrilling. Then Amara's hands gripped his shirt, and everything transformed. Jae Hyun made a low sound in his throat and deepened the kiss. His tongue traced the seam of her lips, and she opened for him immediately. Heat exploded through her veins. His hands tightened on her waist, pulling her flush against him. She could feel every hard plane of his body through her dress. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Amara felt dizzy. Her lips were swollen and tingling. Jae Hyun looked at her like a man starving, like she was everything he required. "Stay," he said, his voice rough. "Not just tonight." Stay with me. Allow me to demonstrate what it feels like to be cherished. Amara understood this was reckless, understood she was diving into deep water without checking for hazards. But standing on this dock in the twilight, wrapped in the arms of a dangerous man who looked at her like she hung the stars, she couldn't bring herself to care. Okay, she whispered against his lips. I'll stay. 3 weeks had elapsed since Amara relocated into the estate. 3 weeks of inhabiting a world she never knew existed. Every morning commenced the same manner. She would awaken in the huge master bedroom with its lake view, and Jae Hyun would already be there with breakfast on a silver tray. You don't have to execute this every day, Amara said on a Thursday morning, propping herself up against the pillows. You probably have important business matters to handle. Jae Hyun positioned the tray across her lap. Perfectly scrambled eggs, fresh fruit, toast with butter melting into golden pools. Nothing is more important than this. He sat on the edge of the bed, observing her eat with an intensity that made her self-conscious at first, but she was adapting to it now. The way he looked at her like she was the most fascinating person alive. What's on your schedule today? She inquired between bites of blueberry. Meetings until midday. Then I thought I'd instruct you some self-defense techniques. You should understand how to protect yourself. He reached over and wiped a drop of juice from her chin. The casual intimacy of the gesture made her stomach flip. What about you? Amara had been contemplating this for days. I need to determine what I'm executing with my life. I can't just reside here eternally eating your food and sleeping in your bed. Why not? Jae Hyun asked simply. Because I need to labor. I need purpose. I've consistently wanted to open a bakery, but that requires capital and planning and permits. She sighed. Plus, I'm technically still employed at Park Enterprises, but I haven't been to labor since the wedding catastrophe. You resigned that position 2 weeks ago. I had Mrs. Kim handle the documentation. Amara nearly dropped her fork. You what? Your manager was appropriating your labor. The environment was toxic. You deserved superior. Jae Hyun's expression was matter of fact. As for the bakery, I own a commercial property in Midtown that's been sitting vacant. It's yours if you desire it. I can't just accept a building from you. Consider it an investment. I believe in you. He stood and kissed the top of her head. Contemplate it. I'll see you this afternoon for training. After he departed, Amara sat in bed, mind spinning. This was her life now, inhabiting with a man who casually granted away buildings and created her breakfast every morning. A man who was gradually stealing her heart, piece by piece. That afternoon in the estate's private gym, Jae Hyun instructed her how to break someone's grip. His hands wrapped around her wrists, firm but careful. Twist toward my thumb, he instructed. That's the weakest component of any grip. Amara followed his direction and broke free easily. That actually functions. Everything I instruct you functions. Again. They practiced for an hour. By the conclusion, Amara was perspiring and breathing hard, but she felt powerful. Jae Hyun observed her with approval and something hotter burning in his dark eyes. A man materialized in the gym doorway. He was tall and lean with kind eyes, and black hair falling across his forehead. Boss, we need to depart in an hour if we're going to make the Miami flight. Thank you, Min-ho. Jae Hyun pivoted to Amara. I have business in Miami tonight, a dinner meeting. I'd like you to accompany me. Amara wiped perspiration from her forehead with a towel. To a business meeting. Won't I be obstructing? You'll be beside me. That's where you belong. Min-ho stepped into the gym fully. Over the past weeks, he'd become something like a friend to Amara. He brought her books from the library, instructed her card games, and made her laugh with stories about Jae Hyun's more ridiculous business rivals. Affirm, Min-ho urged with a grin. Miami is beautiful at night. Plus, the boss is insufferable when you're not around. He examines his device every 5 minutes. Jae Hyun shot him a look that would have terrified most people. Min-ho just laughed. Okay, Amara concurred, but I don't possess anything fancy enough to wear to a business dinner in Miami. Already handled, Jae Hyun said. Mrs. Kim has 3 options, anticipating in your chamber. 4 hours later, Amara stood in front of a mirror in a Miami hotel suite, barely recognizing herself. The dress was deep sapphire blue, hugging every curve of her body. It had long sleeves and a neckline that displayed just enough to be interesting. Her hair was styled in sleek waves. The makeup artist Jae Hyun hired had made her skin glow like polished ebony. "You look like a queen," Jae Hyun said from the doorway. He wore a charcoal gray suit that fit him like it was sculpted on. His hair was styled back from his face, displaying his sharp features. "I look expensive," Amara corrected, rotating to face him. "This dress probably costs more than my vehicle did." He crossed the chamber in 3 strides and pulled her against him. "You look priceless. There's a distinction." The dinner was at an exclusive restaurant on the top floor of a hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed the glittering Miami skyline below. The chamber was full of men in expensive suits and women dripping with jewelry. Everyone seemed to recognize Jae Hyun. They nodded with respect as he passed, Amara's hand secured firmly in his. At their table, Jae Hyun introduced her to various business associates. Amara smiled and shook hands, attempting to remember names. Min Ho sat on her other side, maintaining up a quiet commentary that made her feel less nervous. Then a man approached their table. He was older, maybe 50, with silver hair and cold blue eyes. Something about him made Amara's skin crawl. "Jae Hyun," the man said smoothly. "I heard you acquired something new recently. Wanted to witness for myself." Jae Hyun's entire demeanor transformed. His hand tightened on Amara's. "Richard Crane." "I didn't know you were invited to this dinner. I go where I please." Richard's eyes slid over Amara like oil. "So this is the rejected bride everyone's discussing. I witnessed the recording. Quite entertaining." Amara felt her face heat with shame. Jae Hyun commenced to stand, but Richard kept articulating. "I have to wonder what you perceive in her, though. She's rather dark, isn't she? Not exactly the type a man of your status usually maintains around." Richard smirked. "Then again, maybe you just felt pity for her." The words struck Amara like physical blows. All her insecurities came rushing back. Maybe Richard was correct. Maybe Jae Hyun was just being charitable. Maybe this whole thing was pity. Jae Hyun moved so rapidly that Amara barely witnessed it. 1 second he was sitting, the next he had Richard by the throat, slamming him against the nearest wall. The entire restaurant went silent. "Let me make something extremely clear," Jae Hyun said, his voice deadly calm. "Amara is mine. She is perfect precisely as she is. And if you or anyone else ever disrespects her again, I will end you. Not harm you, not frighten you, end you completely. Do you comprehend?" Richard's face had gone purple. He managed a tiny nod. Jae Hyun released him, and the man collapsed to the floor, gasping. Jae Hyun pivoted back to the table, adjusting his suit jacket calmly. "We're departing. Min Ho, lead the rest of the meeting." He captured Amara's hand and escorted her out of the restaurant. Nobody attempted to stop them. In the elevator back to their suite, Amara was shaking. Not from fear, from something else entirely. The way Jae Hyun had defended her, the raw violence barely contained beneath his polished surface, it awakened something primal inside her. The elevator doors opened. They walked to their suite in silence. As soon as the door sealed behind them, Jae Hyun pivoted to her. "I apologize you had to witness that side of me. I understand it was frightening." Amara stepped close to him, pressing her palms against his chest. She could feel his heart pounding. "I'm not frightened. I'm grateful. Nobody has ever defended me like that." "Become accustomed to it," he said roughly, because I meant every word. "You're mine, Amara, and I protect what's mine." She looked up at him through her lashes. "Then stop articulating and demonstrate me." Something snapped in Jae Hyun's control. He cupped her face and kissed her hard, all the gentleness from their dock kiss replaced with raw hunger. Amara kissed him back just as fiercely, her hands fisting in his shirt. They stumbled toward the bedroom, mouths never separating. Jae Hyun's hands found the zipper of her dress and pulled it down slowly. The sapphire fabric pooled at her feet. He stepped back to look at her, standing there in just her lace underwear. "Perfect," he breathed. "Absolutely perfect." Amara had consistently hated her body. Too dark, too curvy, too much. But the way Jae Hyun looked at her with worship and desire made her feel like a goddess. She reached for his shirt buttons, fumbling with them in her eagerness. He assisted her, shrugging out of the shirt to reveal a body that made her mouth go dry. Lean muscle, smooth skin, a few scars that told stories she wanted to learn. When they fell onto the bed together, skin against skin, Amara felt like she was burning from the inside out. Jae Hyun kissed every inch of her neck, her shoulders, the curve of her stomach. His hands traced her hips, her thighs, learning every dip and swell. "You're shaking," he murmured against her skin. "I've never felt like this before," she admitted. "Like I'm going to explode, then release. I've secured you." When they finally came together, Amara did explode. Colors burst behind her eyes. Jae Hyun moved with controlled power, observing her face, learning what made her gasp and arch. He whispered words in Korean that she didn't comprehend but felt in her bones. They made love for hours, learning each other's bodies, pushing boundaries, discovering what brought the most pleasure. Amara had never felt so desired, so cherished, so completely secure while being so vulnerable. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied. Jae Hyun traced lazy patterns on her back. Outside the window, Miami blazed with illumination, even though it was nearly dawn. "Stay with me," Jae Hyun said quietly. "Not just in my residence. Stay with me in every way. Be mine completely." Amara lifted her head to look at him. His dark eyes were serious, vulnerable in a way she'd never witnessed before. "I'm already yours," she whispered. "I think I have been since you walked down that aisle." He kissed her softly, sweetly, sealing the promise between them, and as the sun began to rise over the ocean, Amara knew she'd found something she didn't even know she was seeking. She'd found home. New York City in October was magnificent. The leaves were transforming golden amber, and the air possessed that perfect crisp quality that made Amara want to walk everywhere. Jae Hyun's Manhattan penthouse was located in Tribeca, with massive windows overlooking the Hudson River. It was different from the Georgia estate, but just as luxurious. Amara stood in what would soon be her bakery, breathing in the aroma of fresh paint. The space was perfect. High ceilings with exposed brick, large windows that admitted natural illumination, enough space for display cases and tables. Jae Hyun had been true to his word. He'd handed her the keys 2 weeks ago and instructed her to create it precisely what she wanted. "The ovens arrive tomorrow," Jae Hyun said, approaching behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "And the contractor states the kitchen will be inspection ready by Friday." Amara leaned back against his chest. "This is really transpiring. I'm opening a bakery in Manhattan. You're going to be the most successful bakery in the city." He kissed her temple. "I possess complete confidence in you." Over the past month, their relationship had shifted into something deeper. They were partners now in every sense. Amara spent her mornings planning the bakery and her afternoons in Jae Hyun's home office, where he'd commenced asking her opinion on business matters. It transpired that operating an underground empire required sophisticated accounting. Capital needed to be transferred, investments tracked, legitimate businesses maintained as covers. Amara's sharp mind for calculations made her invaluable. She could spot discrepancies that others overlooked, find patterns in financial records, suggest solutions to complicated problems. "You're wasted on baking," Min Ho had joked last week. "You should be operating a hedge fund." But Amara loved baking. She loved creating something with her hands, observing people's faces illuminate when they tasted something delicious. The bakery was her dream, and Jae Hyun supported it completely. The bell above the bakery door chimed. Amara pivoted, expecting to witness the contractor. Instead, Marcus stood in the doorway, looking nothing like the arrogant man from the wedding. His suit was wrinkled, his hair was disheveled, dark circles shadowed his eyes. Jae Hyun's entire body went rigid. He stepped in front of Amara protectively. "You possess 3 seconds to depart before I remove you myself." "Please," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "I just need to converse with Amara. 5 minutes." Amara positioned her hand on Jae Hyun's arm. She felt the tension thrumming through his muscles. "It's acceptable. Allow him to articulate whatever he came to articulate." Jae Hyun didn't move. "I'll be right here. If he articulates one incorrect word, he's gone." Marcus stepped further into the bakery, maintaining his distance. "Amara, I came to apologize. What I executed at the wedding was unforgivable. I was vicious and foolish, and I've regretted it every single day since. Why are you authentically here, Marcus? Amara inquired coldly. You made your sentiments extremely clear. My family lost everything, Marcus blurted out. After I insulted you, after what transpired with Jae Hyun, all our business partners withdrew. My father's company went bankrupt. We lost the residence, the vehicles, everything. My parents aren't communicating to me. They blame me for ruining their lives. Amara felt a flicker of sympathy, but it died quickly. So you came here hoping I'd what? Request Jae Hyun to repair things for you. I came to beg for forgiveness, Marcus said desperately, and affirmative, to inquire if there's anything you can execute. I understand I don't deserve it. I understand I was horrible, but please, Amara, my family is suffering. Jae Hyun's laugh was harsh. Your family is suffering because of choices you executed. Actions possess consequences. Marcus's face crumpled. I understand. I understand. I was raised to think that appearance was everything. That image mattered more than character. I perceive now how incorrect that was. He looked at Amara with tears in his eyes. You deserved infinitely better than how I treated you. I'm truly sorry. Amara studied him for a long moment. Part of her, the part that had been humiliated in front of hundreds of people, wanted him to suffer more. But another part, the part that Jae Hyun loved, couldn't find satisfaction in someone else's pain. I accept your apology, she said quietly, but I won't assist you. Not because I'm cruel, but because you need to learn this lesson. You need to comprehend that how you treat people matters, that words possess power and consequences. She stepped closer to Jae Hyun, who immediately pulled her against his side. I've moved on, Marcus. I'm with someone who perceives my worth, who celebrates me instead of tearing me down. I'm content, more content than I ever would have been with you. Marcus's shoulders slumped in defeat. I can perceive that. He observes you like you're everything. He wiped his eyes. I hope you possess a good life, Amara. You deserve it. He pivoted and departed without another word. The bell chimed softly as the door sealed behind him. Jae Hyun cupped Amara's face in his hands. Are you acceptable? I'm perfect, she said honestly. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm precisely where I'm supposed to be. That evening, after a long day of bakery planning, Jae Hyun instructed Amara to dress warmly. He was transporting her somewhere special. They rode the elevator to the top floor of the building, but instead of stopping at the penthouse, they continued up. The rooftop was transformed. String illuminations hung between planted trees, creating a canopy of warm light. A garden had been installed with flowers blooming in large planters. Comfortable furniture was arranged around a small fountain. The city sparkled around them like a jewel box. When did you execute this? Amara breathed, spinning in a circle to absorb it all in. I've been laboring on it for 3 weeks. Minho assisted, maintain you distracted. Jae Hyun captured her hand and escorted her to a cushioned bench near the fountain. I wanted to create a place that was just ours, where we could escape without departing home. They sat close together, sharing warmth against the October chill. The city hummed below them, but up here, they existed in their own private world. Can I communicate something to you? Jae Hyun inquired quietly. Something I've never communicated to anyone. Always, Amara said, capturing his hand. He was silent for a long moment, staring out at the skyline. I grew up in Seoul, extremely poor. My father died when I was 8, leaving my mother with 3 children and no capital. She labored 3 positions, but it was never sufficient. When I was 14, she became ill. Cancer. We couldn't afford treatment. Amara squeezed his hand, her heart aching for the boy he'd been. I observed her die slowly over 6 months. The entire time I was helpless, useless. After she passed, I promised myself I would never be powerless again, never be poor again. His voice was rough with old pain. I executed things I'm not proud of to survive. Labored for people who instructed me how the authentic world operates. Eventually, I was intelligent enough and ruthless enough to assume control, to build something of my own. That's why you assist people who can't approach authorities, Amara realized, because you comprehend what it's like to possess nowhere else to pivot. Affirmative, but I also learned to maintain everyone at arm's length. Emotions were weakness. Love was a liability. I possessed women, but never anyone who mattered. I built walls so elevated that nothing could penetrate. He pivoted to face her fully, his dark eyes intense. Until you. Amara's breath caught. That day in the common area, when you distributed your meal with someone you barely knew, you broke something open inside me. I commenced observing you, studying you, attempting to comprehend how you stayed so kind in a world that was often cruel. You'd been wounded. I could perceive it in your eyes, but you hadn't permitted it to make you bitter. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I fell in love with you long before that wedding, Amara. When I witnessed Marcus humiliate you, I couldn't remain silent anymore. I had to possess you, had to demonstrate you what you deserve. Tears streamed down Amara's face. I love you too. I think I commenced falling the moment you walked down that aisle. You observed me like I was precious, like I was worth rescuing. Nobody had ever observed me like that before. Jae Hyun wiped her tears away gently. You rescued me too. You reminded me that there is more to life than power and control. That being vulnerable with the correct person isn't weakness, it's strength. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Amara melted into him, pouring everything she felt into the kiss. When they pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Transport me inside, Amara whispered against his lips. I need you. They barely made it to the bedroom. Clothes disappeared in a trail from the rooftop door to the bed. This time, their lovemaking was different, slower, deeper. Every touch was a confession. Every kiss was a promise. Jae Hyun took his time mapping every inch of Amara's body with his hands and mouth. He whispered how much he loved her curves, her darkness, the way she responded to his touch. He made her feel like a work of art, something to be cherished and worshipped. When Amara touched him in return, exploring the hard planes of his body, Jae Hyun trembled beneath her hands. She loved that she could affect him this way, that this powerful man surrendered completely to her. They moved together in perfect rhythm, finding a connection that went beyond physical. This was souls touching, hearts binding, two people becoming something more together than they ever were apart. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, skin cooling in the air-conditioned bedroom. Amara traced the scars on Jae Hyun's chest, each one a story from his difficult past. Communicate to me about this one, she said softly, touching a long mark along his ribs. Knife confrontation. When I was 17, I was protecting my sister from a man who wouldn't accept rejection. And this one, she touched his shoulder. Gunshot wound. 3 years ago, a transaction went incorrect. She kissed each scar gently. Thank you for surviving, for being here with me now. Jae Hyun pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. Thank you for perceiving past the monster everyone else perceives, for loving all of me, even the dark parts. You're not a monster, Amara insisted fiercely. You're a man who executes what's necessary to protect the people you care about. There's nothing monstrous about that. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, hearts beating in sync. Outside, New York City never slept, always moving, always transforming. But in this moment, in this bed, time stood still. Amara had found her home, not in a place, but in a person, in strong arms that held her close, in dark eyes that perceived her true worth, in a dangerous heart that beat only for her. She was completely, utterly, perfectly in love, and she knew without any doubt that Jae Hyun felt precisely the same way. The bakery had been open for 2 months and was already a success. Lines formed every morning for Amara's sweet potato pie and peach cobbler. Food bloggers raved about her red velvet cupcakes. She'd even been featured in a New York Times article about the city's superior new dessert locations. When a potential investor from Boston reached out wanting to discuss opening a second location, Amara was thrilled. Jae Hyun had been less enthusiastic. I don't appreciate you traveling without me, he'd said that morning, observing her pack an overnight bag. It's just Boston. I'll return tomorrow night. Amara kissed him softly. Besides, Min Ho is accompanying with me. I'll be perfectly secure. Jae Hyun had pulled her close, holding her longer than usual. Summon me the moment you arrive, and again before you retire to bed, and the second anything feels incorrect. You worry excessively, she teased, not comprehending the instinct that was making him tense. Now sitting in a cold warehouse with her hands secured behind her back, Amara comprehended. She should have listened to that worry in his voice. The meeting in Boston had been legitimate. She'd met with the investor at a nice restaurant, discussed calculations and locations, felt excited about expanding. Min-ho had been with her the entire time, observing everything carefully. But when they'd walked back to their hotel, a van had pulled up. Men with weapons had seized her before Min-ho could react. She'd heard him shout, heard gunfire. Then someone had pressed a cloth over her face, and everything went black. She'd awakened here. Concrete floors, metal walls, a single illumination bulb hanging from the ceiling. Her head pounded, her wrists burned from the rope. Fear sat like ice in her stomach. The metal door scraped open. Richard Crane walked in, looking pleased with himself. 2 large men flanked him, finally conscious. Excellent. Richard pulled up a chair and sat facing her. I hope my men weren't excessively rough. I need you conscious and able to communicate. What do you desire? Amara's voice emerged stronger than she felt. Simple. I desire Jae Hyun to comprehend that he can't humiliate me without consequences. Richard's smile was cold. He embarrassed me in Miami, made me appear weak in front of important people. That's detrimental for business. So you kidnapped me. That's your grand plan. You're his weakness, the only thing in this world he actually cares about. He'll execute anything to retrieve you back, including granting me what I desire. Amara's mind raced. She'd learned enough about Jae Hyun's world to comprehend how this functioned. Richard would make demands. Jae Hyun would have to choose between his empire and her safety. Either way, Richard prevailed. He'll terminate you for this, Amara said quietly. Richard laughed. He'll attempt, but I possess you, and that transforms everything. Back in New York, Jae Hyun's device buzzed with a summons from Min-ho. The moment he heard his friend's panicked voice, the world stopped. They captured her. I attempted to stop them. I got shot, but I'll survive. Boss, they captured Amara. The device shattered in Jae Hyun's grip. Around him, his home office suddenly felt too confined, the air too thin. Rage, pure and absolute, flooded through him. Not the controlled anger he utilized in business. This was something primal, something murderous. Everyone now. He spoke into his backup device, his voice deadly calm. Within an hour, 20 of his most trusted people filled his penthouse. Jae Hyun stood before them, and they all captured an unconscious step back. They'd witnessed him angry before. This was different. This was a man who would incinerate the entire world to ash. Richard Crane captured Amara. Locate him. I desire every resource we possess dedicated to this. Infiltrate his accounts. Track his people. Tear apart every property he owns. I desire her location within 6 hours. His tech specialist, a young woman named Dana, labored her laptop frantically. Boss, I'm detecting chatter on Crane's encrypted channels. They're in Boston, somewhere near the Port District, and narrow it down. 4 hours later, they possessed an address. An abandoned warehouse that Richard's company owned through 3 shell corporations. Jae Hyun gathered his team, examined his weapons, and became someone else entirely. Not the man who brought Amara breakfast in bed, not the gentle lover who whispered sweet words. This was the monster that people whispered about in fear. The assault on the warehouse was quick and brutal. Jae Hyun moved through Richard's guards like death itself. He felt nothing when they fell. No mercy, no hesitation. They'd captured his heart, and he would paint the walls with anyone who stood between them. Min-ho, despite his shoulder wound, fought beside him. Together they cleared chamber after chamber. Jae Hyun's expensive suit was ruined with blood, none of it his. His dark eyes were empty of everything except purpose. Then he found her. Amara sat secured to a chair in a back chamber, a bruise forming on her cheek. The moment Jae Hyun witnessed it, something inside him shattered and reformed harder. Richard stood beside her, weapon pointed at her head. 1 step closer and she dies, Richard threatened. Jae Hyun stopped. For 3 heartbeats, he assessed the situation with the cold calculation that made him so dangerous. Then he smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing anyone in that chamber had ever witnessed. You were deceased the moment you touched her. You just didn't understand it yet. Everything transpired in seconds. Jae Hyun moved with speed that shouldn't have been possible. He drew his weapon and fired, striking Richard's wrist. The man screamed, dropping his weapon. Before it struck the ground, Jae Hyun was on him. What followed was brutal. Jae Hyun beat Richard with his bare hands, each strike fueled by hours of fear and rage. When Richard fell, Jae Hyun pulled him up and executed it again and again. He didn't stop until Richard Crane stopped breathing entirely. Only then did Jae Hyun pivot to Amara. His hands, covered in blood, shook as he untied her ropes. Did he harm you? Communicate to me everywhere he harmed you. I'm acceptable. I'm acceptable. Amara threw her arms around him, not caring about the blood, not caring about anything except that he was here. You came for me, always. I will always come for you. His voice broke. I thought I'd lost you. They flew to Seattle that night to a secure residence that nobody knew about. Jae Hyun refused to return to New York until he was certain all of Richard's associates were dealt with. The residence was modern and isolated, perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Amara showered, washing away the terror of the day. When she emerged wrapped in a soft robe, she found Jae Hyun standing by the window. He'd cleaned up too, but his hand still shook slightly. She witnessed the cracks in his armor, the fear he'd been withholding. Hey, she said softly, crossing to him. I'm here. I'm secure. I terminated him. Jae Hyun's voice was hollow. I beat him to death with my bare hands while you observed. You witnessed the monster, Amara. You witnessed what I authentically am. Amara captured his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. I witnessed a man protecting the woman he loves. I witnessed someone who would move heaven and earth to maintain me secure. There's nothing monstrous about that. I enjoyed it, he confessed, his voice breaking. Harming him, ending him. For a moment, I desired him to suffer more. He kidnapped me. He threatened to terminate me. You possessed every right to feel that way. She pressed her forehead to his. I love you, Jae Hyun. All of you. The gentleman who brings me breakfast. The warrior who tears apart anyone who threatens me. Every single part. A sob tore from his throat. This dangerous man who never displayed weakness broke down in her arms. Amara held him while he shook, while months of maintaining everything controlled finally cracked open. When he finally lifted his head, his eyes were crimson but clear. I'm finished with all of it. The empire, the violence, the life that positioned you in danger. His hands cupped her face. I'm walking away. I possess enough legitimate businesses to support us eternally. I desire a clean life with you. Marriage, maybe children someday. Normal things. Are you certain? That world is all you've known. You're all I need to know. He kissed her deeply, pouring everything he felt into it. Marry me, Amara. Be my wife. Permit me to spend the rest of my life maintaining you secure and content. Yes, she breathed. Affirmative to everything. They moved to the bedroom, need replacing fear. Jae Hyun undressed her slowly, reverently, his hands worshipping every inch of skin. When he laid her on the bed, he covered her body with his, needing to feel her alive and whole beneath him. Their lovemaking was desperate and intense. Each touch was a reminder that they'd survived. Each kiss was a promise of forever. Jae Hyun moved inside her with controlled power, observing her face, memorizing every expression. When Amara called his name and shattered around him, he followed immediately, emptying himself into her like he was granting her his soul. They made love twice more through the night, unable to achieve close enough, to feel enough, to prove they were authentically together. Between rounds, they discussed the future. Amara's bakery expanding, Jae Hyun's legitimate business ventures, a wedding, small and private, maybe a residence somewhere quiet where they could just be themselves. As dawn broke over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, they lay tangled together. Jae Hyun traced patterns on Amara's back while she rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I almost lost you," he whispered. "I can't ever experience that again." "You didn't lose me. I'm right here." She lifted her head to look at him. "And I'm not departing anywhere. You're secured with me eternally." Eternally sounds perfect. He kissed her softly. "I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. I love you too, my dangerous, gentle, complicated, perfect man." Outside, the world continued rotating. But in this moment, in this bed, they possessed everything they required. Love that had been tested and proved unbreakable, trust earned through fire, and a future stretching ahead of them, full of possibility. Jae Hyun had spent his whole life fighting. Now finally, he could rest, because he'd found something worth more than power or control or empire. He'd found home in Amara's arms, and that was worth everything. 6 months had transformed everything. Amara stood in front of a full-length mirror in a beachfront villa in Hawaii, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. Her wedding gown was simple but stunning. Ivory silk that flowed like water over her curves, with delicate lace sleeves and a neckline that displayed just enough. Her hair was styled in loose curls with fresh white orchids secured behind her ear. She looked content. She looked loved. "You're glowing," her sister Tasha said, adjusting the flowers in Amara's hair. "I've never witnessed you like this." Amara smiled at her reflection. "I've never felt like this, like everything finally makes sense." Tasha's eyes got misty. "I'm so content for you. When I witnessed that recording of your first wedding, I wanted to fly to Atlanta and confront Marcus. But then Jae Hyun walked down that aisle and I knew. I knew he was your person." "He rescued me," Amara said softly. "In every way a person can be rescued." The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of transformation. True to his word, Jae Hyun had walked away from his criminal empire. He'd transferred control to trusted associates who would maintain things operating, but he was out completely. Now he focused on his legitimate businesses, real estate, tech investments, import companies, everything legal, everything clean. Amara's bakery had exploded beyond her wildest dreams. The Manhattan location was so successful that she'd opened 4 more, one in Brooklyn, another in Boston, 2 in Atlanta. She employed 30 people now. Food publications wrote about her. Celebrity chefs came to attempt her desserts. She was inhabiting a dream she'd barely permitted herself to imagine, but the superior part was returning home every night to Jae Hyun, to a man who observed her like she hung the moon, who supported every dream, celebrated every success, and held her through every moment of doubt. "It's time," Tasha said, squeezing her hand. "Your groom is anticipating." The ceremony was on the beach at sunset. Only 20 guests, all people who authentically mattered. Min-ho stood beside Jae Hyun as best man, looking handsome in a light gray suit. Mrs. Kim dabbed her eyes with a tissue. A few of Amara's close friends from New York sat in white chairs arranged in the sand. But Amara only possessed eyes for Jae Hyun. He stood at the conclusion of a path marked by tiki torches, the ocean behind him transforming gold and rose in the setting sun. He wore a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up and light gray trousers. No tie, casual but elegant. When he witnessed Amara, his whole face transformed. Love and wonder and joy all mixed together. Amara walked toward him barefoot, her gown trailing in the sand. No one granted her away because she wasn't property to be transferred. She came to him as an equal, as a partner, as a woman choosing her own future. When she reached him, Jae Hyun captured both her hands. His eyes were already glassy with tears. "You're so beautiful," he whispered. "So are you," she whispered back. The officiant, a kind older woman with flowers in her silver hair, smiled at them both. "We're gathered here in paradise to witness the marriage of Amara and Jae Hyun. This is a love story that commenced with courage, with someone perceiving value where others perceived nothing, with 2 hearts finding each other against all odds." She nodded to Jae Hyun. "Your vows." Jae Hyun cleared his throat. His hands shook slightly as he held Amara's. 6 months ago, I walked into a wedding and executed the most insane thing I'd ever executed. I claimed a woman I barely knew as mine. Everyone thought I was mad. Maybe I was. But from the first moment I witnessed you, Amara, I knew. I knew you were the one I'd been anticipating my whole life. Tears rolled down Amara's cheeks. Jae Hyun gently wiped them away, his touch tender. You instructed me that love isn't weakness, that being vulnerable with the correct person is the most courageous thing you can execute. You perceived past the monster everyone feared and found the man underneath, the man who just wanted to be worthy of someone like you. His voice broke. I promise to spend every single day for the rest of my life proving that you're the most precious thing in my world. I promise to support your dreams, celebrate your victories, and hold you through every challenge. I promise to love every part of you, precisely as you are, for as long as I inhabit. Amara was fully weeping now, content tears that she didn't bother wiping away. The officiant nodded to her. Jae Hyun, Amara commenced, her voice thick with emotion. When Marcus departed me at that altar, I thought my life was terminated. I thought I'd never be adequate enough, beautiful enough, worthy enough. Then you materialized like something from a dream and demonstrated me I was incorrect about everything. She squeezed his hands. You instructed me that authentic love doesn't perceive flaws. It perceives a whole person and chooses them anyway. You made me believe in myself when I'd stopped believing. You granted me courage to chase dreams I'd surrendered on. You protected me, supported me, and loved me so fiercely that I possessed no choice but to love myself too. Jae Hyun's tears matched hers now, two people completely undone by love. I promise to be your partner in everything, to stand beside you in success and struggle, to remind you that walking away from darkness requires more strength than remaining in it. I promise to love you with everything I possess, in every way I can, for all the days were granted. She smiled through her tears. You rescued me, but we rescued each other. And I can't anticipate to spend eternally demonstrating you how grateful I am that you articulated I will. The officiant beamed at them both. By the power vested in me by the state of Hawaii, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Jae Hyun pulled Amara close and kissed her like they were the only two people in the world, like she was air and he'd been drowning. The small group of guests cheered and clapped. Minho whistled. Tasha sobbed content tears. When they finally separated, both laughing and weeping, the sun was setting behind them in a blaze of orange and purple. Perfect. Everything was absolutely perfect. The reception was casual and intimate. A long table positioned on the beach with string illuminations overhead, fresh seafood, tropical beverages, Amara's homemade wedding cake that she'd insisted on baking herself. Music played softly from speakers concealed in the palm trees. Jae Hyun never released Amara's hand, even while eating, while conversing to guests, while cutting the cake. He required that constant contact, that proof that she was authentically his wife now. When it was time for their first dance, he escorted her to a cleared area of sand. The song was slow and romantic. They swayed together, foreheads touching, lost in their own world. I possess something to communicate to you, Amara whispered, something I discovered this morning. Jae Hyun pulled back to look at her, concern flickering in his eyes. What is it? She captured his hand and positioned it low on her belly. We're going to possess a baby. I'm about 8 weeks along. For a moment, Jae Hyun just stared at her. Then his face crumpled with joy. He dropped to his knees right there on the beach, pressing his forehead against her stomach. A baby. We're possessing a baby. Amara ran her fingers through his hair, laughing and weeping at the same time. Are you content? He looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. Content doesn't even commence to cover it. You've granted me everything, Amara. A motivation to be superior, a home, a family. I never thought I'd possess any of this. He stood and kissed her deeply, not caring that everyone was observing. When they pulled apart, the guests were clapping again. Minho shouted congratulations. Tasha was weeping even harder than before. The honeymoon stretched out before them like a dream. They spent 2 weeks in their private villa. Days were for swimming in the crystal clear water, walking on white sand beaches, exploring concealed waterfalls. Nights were for making love under the stars, discussing their future, planning for the baby that was growing inside Amara. Jae Hyun was obsessed with her belly, even though she wasn't displaying yet. He touched it constantly, communicated to it, instructed their baby about how extraordinary their mother was. "Do you think it's a boy or girl?" he inquired one night as they lay in bed, the ocean breeze drifting through open windows. "I don't care as long as they're healthy," Amara said. "Though I hope they acquire your eyes. I hope they acquire your heart, your kindness, your strength." He kissed her softly. "I hope they understand how fortunate they are to possess you as their mother." On their last night in Hawaii, they sat on the beach, observing the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of rose, orange, and purple. Waves lapped gently at the shore. Jae Hyun sat behind Amara, his arms wrapped around her, his hands resting protectively on her still flat stomach. "Do you ever contemplate that day?" Amara inquired quietly. "The wedding." "Every single day," Jae Hyun admitted. "Superior decision I ever executed. Walking down that aisle claiming you as mine. People thought I was insane. Maybe I was. But it was the classification of insane that transforms everything." Amara leaned back against his chest. "Marcus actually executed me a favor. If he'd married me, I would have spent my whole life wondering what authentic love felt like. Now I understand. It feels like this, like returning home." "You are my home," Jae Hyun whispered against her hair. "You and this baby, you're everything I require." They sat in comfortable silence, observing the sun sink below the horizon. The sky darkened to deep purple, then navy blue. Stars commenced to materialize, thousands of them, more than you could ever witness in the city. "Promise me something," Amara said. "Anything. Promise that we'll consistently be honest with each other, that we'll fight for this, even when it's challenging, that we'll never assume each other for granted. I promise, every day for the rest of our lives." He rotated her face so he could kiss her. "You rescued me, Amara, from a life where nothing mattered except power. You demonstrated me that love is the only thing worth fighting for." "We rescued each other," she corrected softly. "That's what authentic love executes. It makes both people superior." As the stars filled the Hawaiian sky, Jae Hyun held his wife and their unborn child, feeling more complete than he ever thought possible. He'd spent years building an empire, accumulating power and wealth and influence. None of it had filled the emptiness inside him, but this woman, with her generous heart and beautiful spirit, had filled every crack and crevice. She demonstrated him that being vulnerable wasn't weakness, that choosing love over fear was the most courageous thing anyone could execute. "I love you," he whispered, "more than words can express." "I love you too," Amara replied, consistently and eternally. Eternally, that's precisely what they possessed. A love story that commenced with rejection and concluded in the most beautiful beginning. A future full of bakeries and babies, laughter and challenges, ordinary moments made extraordinary by being together. Sometimes the most incredible love stories commence when someone looks past the surface and perceives who you authentically are. When someone articulates, "I will," when everyone else walks away. When two broken pieces find each other and become whole. As Jae Hyun and Amara sat wrapped in each other's arms, observing the stars dance above the Hawaiian ocean, they knew one thing with absolute certainty. They were home, they were loved, and they were precisely where they were meant to be. Thank you so much for joining Amara and Jae Hyun on their incredible journey from heartbreak to happiness. If this love story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss another romantic tale. Drop a comment below communicating us where you're observing from and what part of the story made your heart flutter the most. Did you love the moment Jae Hyun crashed the wedding, the passionate nights they distributed, or maybe the beautiful conclusion with their baby on the way? We want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to strike that like button and distribute this story with someone who believes in second opportunities and authentic love. Your support means everything and assists us bring you more extraordinary stories. Until next time, remember that your perfect love story might be just around the corner, anticipating someone courageous enough to articulate, "I will," perceive you in the next story.